Greetings, Sentinels fans. I've decided to take a look at a Definitive Edition environment, and since I'm doing that, let's start with Atlantis. So to recap from a previous video, environments had a bit of a dynamic change from Enhanced Edition to Definitive. The quicker pace of the action means the environment will have fewer rounds to work, and as such, not counting effects from other cards, fewer cards will come out, and the cards will need to be more impactful in order for the environment deck to matter. Also, in Enhanced Edition, you saw a lot more environments that were pretty dangerous for the heroes, but not as bad for the villains. With Definitive Edition, with the exception of a few environments, they now tend to be a bit more equal. Now, even most dangerous environments will still have cards that are friendly to the heroes, but you can expect more cards that you do not need to focus down on. It should also be noted that environment cards now have the one-shot and ongoing keywords for non-target cards. So while straight-up environment destruction is less common, there's still a chance of ongoing destruction still working for you. Unless it's a target and therefore you need to beat it up. Now with the review of the main changes out of the way, let's go to how Atlantis specifically has changed. If you saw my previous video on Atlantis, you may remember that I wasn't really a fan of that deck. From the cards that stop players from doing things, to the nasty damage being thrown, to that card, this wasn't a great way to introduce players to the game. Thankfully, Definitive Edition fixes a lot of my issues. The only card I can think of that wasn't given a pretty major change was the Kraken Tentacle. It still comes out and bullies the target with the lowest HP, the only difference being it lost 6 hit points between versions. However, it seems the Kraken is giving more attention to the situation as it now has the Kraken Maw as well, attacking the healthiest target for 3 and 3 while receiving reduced damage from attacks. Another major card that I would argue wasn't changed that much is Collapsed Hallway. It behaved essentially like a one-shot in Enhanced Edition anyway, so it becoming a one-shot in Definitive Edition was pretty much expected. It is changed to all targets dealing themselves 2 fixed damage instead of receiving 3 damage from the environment. So slight difference in how things are done. The new Collapsed Hallway has an additional effect though, destroying an environment card. I guess blocking access to a room or something. And with a bunch of rooms that can be of benefit in the new one, this can lead to little setbacks. One card that does the same thing but still changed a lot is the new Atlantean Font of Power, as it still plays the top card of each deck in turn order. But instead of blowing up at the start of the next turn, it stays in play unless heroes discard cards to get rid of it. So it becomes a decision whether or not to let the villain have extra plays in exchange for heroes getting extra random plays. Next, there are 2 cards from Enhanced Edition that didn't make it to the new deck at all. First, which I think is the less offensive of the 2, was the Atlantean Defenses. 2 damage across the board isn't too bad, though it can certainly add up. My only real issue with it was the high hit point count, which I suppose would have mattered a lot more in Definitive Edition. The other card that didn't make the cut was Toxic Seaweed, and I am happy to see it go away. 2 to 4 damage per power use is kinda mean, and having to dump your hand to destroy it is cruel. Good riddance, I say. Before we look at the new and changed rooms, let's look at Subaquatic Exploration. This will discover 2 ongoing cards, which will invariably be 2 different rooms of this place, and then the heroes all draw a card. This, of course, speeds the environment along, throwing more rooms and curveballs into the mix. The Phosphorescent Chamber is another room that didn't change too much. It still increases damage across the board as well as healing across the board. And heroes can still discard cards at the start of the environment turn to get rid of it, but it now no longer forces card discard at the end of the environment turn, so it's no longer draining your pockets by just existing, thus making this one a much more enjoyable play. Now let's flip over to the Leaking Room, which used to be a very annoying card that stopped heroes from playing cards. Also increases lightning damage, but that doesn't usually come up. Now it's changed to an effect that lowers all damage dealt by 1, and instead, this is the card that forces a card discard at the end of the turn. I guess we have to have at least 1. It does discard the top card of the villain deck, which may or may not be significant. But anyways, you can at least stop the discards at the start of the environment turn by having 1 hero discard an item. It's still a discard, but it only affects 1 player. I am okay with this one and not to discard an EE Phosphorescent Chamber, because that one robs you of a choice. You are losing cards no matter what. With this, you can at least mitigate things. And now we have a couple of new rooms. First is the Crucible. When this enters play, the top card of each deck is placed under it. And at the end of the environment turn, a random card is chosen. I usually use a 6-sided die to choose. When a card is chosen, all targets belonging to that card's deck receive 3 fixed damage, and that card is played. So it provides a free card play for 3 damage to a random deck. This can mean more stuff happening for a hero or the villain or the environment. Also, if you don't like your odds of a villain getting a card play, or your heroes can't really handle the damage right now, you can opt to use Ongoing Destruction to get rid of it and the other cards. It's a nice little chance card. Next, we have what I assume is the spiritual successor to the Mystical Defenses, the Mystically Defended Wall. When this enters play, it destroys all environment targets, which tells me it's specifically targeting the Kraken. I wonder why. And at the end of the environment turn, it simply destroys 1 villain ongoing and 1 hero ongoing. This is another one where it directly affects both ends of the conflict. You may decide that the constant ongoing loss is too much, or that it doesn't hurt the villain enough. So then at the environment start, 1 hero can discard 2 ongoing cards to get rid of the defenses. But I find losing 1 ongoing per turn isn't the end of the world, and if I'm fighting someone who is very dependent on ongoings, like Omnitron or Plague Rat or Kismet, then I consider this one a benefit. You might be seeing a theme here, where the environment cards now either help or hinder the heroes and the villains at the same time. Which is an excellent dynamic, since it leads to a lot of decision making when it comes to specifics. Is this worth that? Is the extra card plays for me worth card plays for the bad guys? Is the ongoing destruction for the bad guys worth the ongoing destruction for me? Well, this next room kinda abandons that, as the Ritual Sanctum is only a benefit to the heroes. When this is in play, whenever a hero deals fire, cold, lightning, infernal, or radiant damage, essentially the damage types associated with magic or the elements, then a token is added to the room. When there are 10 tokens, the room is destroyed, and every hero can draw 3 cards and use a power. This is very much a lucky break in terms of environment cards, as it does nothing if not interacted with, and purely beneficial if you do, though you do have to work for it. Though, depending on the heroes you use, you likely will not have to work very hard. I personally feel like this is a bit of overcorrecting in terms of difficulty, but hey, it can still lead to fun moments. But it's time for us to look at the Pillars of Hercules. It was very much my most hated card in Enhanced Edition. So did Definitive Edition fix it? I would say yes. It's no longer an immediate benefit to the villain. Instead, at the start of the environment turn, the villain gets 2 free card plays, which can be nasty. But the heroes get to have an extra card play, card draw, and power use each on their turns. So it can be perfectly legit to get the benefits of the pillars, then blow them up at the last opportunity. Now, unlike the other environment cards, the pillars don't have a built-in destruction. So if you want to get rid of it, you will need to spend an ongoing destruction or hope for a collapsed passage. So it will make for some epic fighting with everyone powered up, and it won't play 5 villain cards per round. So I will not be yelling into a pillow this time. I do think this is also a little bit of overcorrecting, as the villain doesn't get a benefit from it for a full round, but moving away from the really punishing effects is fine. So overall, with effects designed to affect both heroes and villains at the same time, the Ruins of Atlantis have become much more enjoyable to play. And as such, much more likely to hit my table. Take care, friends. What's the 3 damage per power use? I blocked that from my memory. Well, this is an Enhanced Edition card, so I can look it up on the wiki. Ruins of Atlantis. You might be seeing a theme here, where the environment cards both help or hinder. No. Okay. Sorry about that. Why am I apologizing? The only person who's going to see this is me. Unless I put this in a blooper reel.